Well, hi there. I'm Diana Montford, the world's first transgender television journalist. Born male, became female. I always have to explain that because of the hair. They say, what direction are you going in? Whatever. Anyway, my guest is Mr. John Del Giorno, who is a lobbyist. What, you might ask, is a lobbyist? I've always wondered. We're about to find out. And an LGBT social justice advocate. We all want social justice, whatever our sexual orientation or race or religion or hair color or wardrobe expertise, whatever. We all want social justice. And here we are about to strike a blow for social justice. My guest, Signore John Del Giorno.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, Diana.
You're welcome.
And you asked the question, what's a lobbyist? So
yes, what is a lobbyist?
A lobbyist is a person who actually helps communicate causes, helps communicate messages on behalf of clients, both public and private. Mm-hmm. My firm, which is Pitta Bishop Del Giorno Giblin, one of the founding members, represents a whole bunch of different entities. About 1/3 of our business is labor unions, from the trades to public sector to the private sector. In addition, we represent about 1/3 of our clients, non-for-profits, which are deep close to my heart because I've served on a number of non-for-profits. In addition, trade associations that represent groups of within the similar sector. It could be construction sector, it could be social service sector, and helping to advance their causes. And the last third of our client base is companies, corporations, and it's a nice diversity, nice mix, and it's what I love and enjoy because I get to spend a lot of time learning about issues that I never thought I would ever in my entire life. And I then try to become as if I'm part of that organization in order to be able to communicate on their behalf and be able to get them the results they're looking for, whether it's something to do with budget, something to do in the media, something to do with legislation, something to do with regulatory, or to help them expand the service base that they're actually trying to advance in their organization, and working alongside them to help them move along their strategy and actually get them to a place where they feel comfortable that the organization is actually servicing its mission.
No, we've all heard that lobbyists are these Machiavellian magicians who can make public policy do whatever they want it to do. Is that true?
Well, very often I'm asked, tell me exactly what you do to help people. Like, is it your connections? Is it people that you know? And very often what a lobbyist does is that we have experiences, whether you had experiences in the private industry or in government. In my case, it was government and non-for-profit. And you learn the ways of helping to advance that strategy, learn how to advance the messaging. And, look, my 21 years in government and my probably 40, well, a little less, probably 35 years in the non-for-profit world is actually helped me to learn how to strategically help my clients to advance their what they're looking to achieve and what they like to get done. It's relationship building, and I bring those relationships to the table. I actually learn about very often many of their organizations don't even realize that they can actually advance their causes, and I just help them get to that place.
Well, they must realize it to a point, or they wouldn't contact you.
So,
or do you look for clients?
I'm very fortunate that I'm able to, and my partners, we're able to pick and choose who we want to work for. Mm-hmm. We are also very careful about the causes that we take on. So we don't represent the gun industry, we don't represent the tobacco industry, we don't represent industries that we are uncomfortable with or don't believe in. I don't represent non-union or anti-union, anti-organized labor corporations. Right. And there's many examples of that, of how I, really, truly, I have to be comfortable in who I'm representing. And I'm not saying everyone doesn't deserve representation, but I know what I'm comfortable doing.
And presumably representing someone with whom you're not comfortable would lessen your expertise. In other words, some unconscious something would cause things not to work out quite the way everyone had hoped, don't you?
No, I think what happens is you have to be committed to wanting to work for that client. And listen, very often you don't agree on what your client is looking to achieve, but it's the point of socially, am I comfortable representing somebody? And if I know I'm not going to take on that engagement. There are some lobbyists that might do it, and they just feel that everybody deserves representation, and that they
Or they're
wanna,
prostitutes, and will take, if the money's right, they'll take anyone.
in the business, you could do very well in taking on unpopular causes or causes that might have some ramifications of, it could be insensitive to a different population, or you're
Like the
imposing on somebody.
KKK or something, yes.
And, something that John Del Giorno would never even consider.
Good. Presumably the KKK would have some kind of PR people or something, wouldn't they?
It's a possibility, yeah. And they might have somebody who, hopefully they don't, their existence is limited.
I hope. Now, you're also an LGBT social justice activist. What does that mean?
So I was very fortunate at a very young age to know that I was a gay man. And I also knew at the time that my family was going to accept me. My family was not going to, by having that experience, and mind you, I've lived and breathed in New York City my entire life, born in the Bronx, lived in 4 out of 5 boroughs. I was born in a time where, it was the 60s, and I grew up in the 70s and 80s.
Would you like to mention your birth year?
1964. And my mother had me when she was 17 years old. My mother always taught me that, John, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve.
What's your mother's name?
Sheila.
Sheila.
Sheila, well, her maiden name is Sheila Blum. Her married name is Sheila Del Giorno. And actually, my mother was divorced and got remarried. I took on my mother's second name because my mother wound up having, there's 5 of us, 5 boys. And my 3 other brothers had a different last name, so I actually went to court and changed my name at the age of, I think I was allowed to do it when I was 16 years old, and I did my name and my brother Robert's name so that we all had the same last name. So
that's in effect your stepfather's name? My
stepfather's name, yes.
Yes. You would prefer not to mention your birth father's name?
It makes no difference. It was Mano, another Italian last name.
Your mommy likes Italian guys.
My mother goes after those Italian men, yeah. Well, why not?
Yeah, good-looking Jewish gal. Why shouldn't she? Anyway, so now my story mirrors yours. If I didn't know I was gay, my schoolmates told me I was. So and my family was exceedingly accepting, quite accepting. But what made you? I'm 8 years older than you are. I was 8 years old in 1964. What do you think that perhaps pushed you into politics because it was possible? Because when I was a teenager, they used to arrest gay people and hate them and beat them up, and whereas when you were a teenager 8 years later, it was that much easier.
Well, I always tell everybody, I was very fortunate that I had folks who guided me, who gave me advice, and also didn't try to turn me on to drugs or alcohol or turn me on to sexual advances that, let's say, I didn't want to
Lucky you, because my male typing teacher, when I was 16, used to sit on top of me and take my hand and say, like this. And I would cringe with horror. He was like 30-something. I
had teacher experiences too. But what I would say to you is that I believe what set my getting active at a very young age was the period of, I was going out clubbing. I was going to all the clubs. I had a lot of friends in the art and fashion world because I wanted to originally be a fashion designer.
How cool.
I went to a school for art and music, and that was really the direction I was going in. So when people say to me, how did you get into politics? Basically what happened was I was able to, I achieved to get out of school at an earlier age. It would have been about 1.5 years younger than you're supposed to technically graduate school. And it was a school system that convinced me that I should stay and do internships, and they would set up internships for me in any subject matter, anything I'd like to do. So I joined an executive internship program at the age of 16, and I wind up getting involved not only in the art world, I loved also government. My dream was, if I wasn't going to be doing the art world, I would like to be a diplomat and maybe go into the Foreign Service. And so I had all these opportunities. I worked in various government offices, and I got the bug. And it was also at the same time where AIDS came alive.
That bug you did not get, thank God.
And thank God, I was fortunate. But,
I don't have it either because I'm frigid as hell. But anyway, you were saying.
But I think the turning point for me was that I saw that I was able to be a free person, to be able to live my life and be able to explore and be able to learn about. To me, gay isn't not that it's not normal. It is normal. So I never experienced it not being normal, where I always heard things. I always saw some people who felt uncomfortable. And I started to see that there was a period during the late 70s, early 80s where actually we were making a lot of advances. We were doing pretty well, and that people were starting to accept the LGBT community.
Yes.
People were starting to, everybody realized, oh, I have a sister or an aunt or
And
a
even
hairdresser.
something
Or
as seemingly trivial as disco, which was originally gay music, helped to spread the message.
you know how many straight women I met on the dance floor? And actually, or actually straight couples on the dance floor. Everybody went to the disco, and
Sure.
everybody. As a matter of fact, many straight people were dressing as if they were the LGBTQ
You have to look closely.
individuals.
Is that like a genetic woman or a drag queen? What is that?
Very often, you didn't know the difference, and everybody got along. Everybody had a good time. And when AIDS, the word got out that people were dying, and it was this so-called gay man's disease, or a disease that was brought over from another country, you started to see things go backwards, and it started to get to the point where people were saying things more and more that were making me very uncomfortable and making me understand that,
You mean
what,
homophobic things?
homophobic things, and that we need to speak up. Also seeing that government was cracking down on bathhouses, cracking down on clubs, treating people as if they were isolating them, treating them.
There was even at the time an idea that they might quarantine gay people, gay men, because of the fear of AIDS.
Quarantine them. You weren't able to give blood.
You still aren't.
Still aren't technically to give blood. You think about how the stigma started coming into place. All kinds of legislation, all kinds of things that were put onto the table to start advancing some human rights, because to me, everyone should be treated the same, regardless of color,
Yes,
religion.
but the problem is that today everyone is treated the same badly, so that's the problem.
We have a lot of things to still overcome.
Yeah.
But what I did see was that it was time that I know that for John Del Giorno, I wanted to not be silent. I was going to be active. I wasn't the type of individual to do demonstrations or to protest, but I participated in marches on D.C. And my mother actually joined me. My mother actually joined me and my boyfriend at the time to go during the quilts. And I remember going in the late 80s. I think the quilt started in 87 or 88. I remember it was like, 1,000, 1,500 quilts. And then by the time we went to the last one, which was 1996, I believe it was, when we went to the last one, it was up to 50,000, almost 50,000. Think about this. And when I started, getting phone calls, my friend got HIV, my friend has AIDS, my friend got AIDS, and it wasn't even HIV, everybody said AIDS. Around me, my cousin, my uncle, who's also gay, my mom's brother is gay, who I was always close to, but left New York to go to live in California to live his life because he didn't want his family, he didn't want us family to know, my grandparents to know that he was gay, and went to go live a different life. And he lives in Hollywood still, and we're very close. But a lot of his friends and his lovers, who I became close with when I used to travel out there to see him, or when he used to come and visit in New York, he used to, hang out, and I knew when they started dying, it got to the point where I realized, we need to do something. We need to be more active. We need to be more involved. And that's how I started getting involved in the community. So I joined the hospice board. Hospice was a place that many folks wind up at. I joined a home care board where home care providers, because there was a lot of concern about providing home care to people with AIDS. A lot of people wouldn't service people with AIDS. I remember when my cousin Michael was in the hospital, and I remember in Brooklyn going with my mom to go visit him because none of his family would actually show up. My stepfather's side wouldn't even come visit him, and it was his girlfriends and friends that he had over the years. There was the plastics. You had to get all dressed up. You looked like you were space astronauts walking into the hospital bed.
Excuse me.
And hospital wards were separated. Interesting enough, I live in Staten Island. St. Vincent's Hospital, a Catholic hospital, was the first hospital to take in AIDS patients.
Yes.
And so
St. Vincent's on West 12th Street, which no longer exists.
So I actually served on the hospice board that serviced St. Vincent's,
That's
Pax
wonderful.
Christi
And
Hospice.
you were so young.
I was at the age probably at that time in my early 20s.
Now, you've mentioned that you and your uncle both have that wonderful genetic peculiarity that keeps you safe from HIV/AIDS.
So my uncle's actually part of a scientific study that started, I don't know exactly, he had told me when it started, and he's been participating ever since because he's had lovers who have had HIV or have died, and my uncle is not, he's HIV negative. So he has not gotten the disease. I have not gotten the disease. Now, it's one of those things where, when I first came out, you didn't know about what to do, not to do. Like, you didn't even think about
Well,
it.
that's why you had to dress in those hazmat suits or something, because it could have. I myself used to think twice before going to Greenwich Village, thinking it might be in the air,
Well, think about how, we used to go to bars, go to clubs, you share a drink with somebody,
Or it could
now
be
all of
like
a sudden
tuberculosis.
You're
in
not
the
sharing
air
a drink anymore. Or now you're not kissing
Or
on the
someone
lips,
snatches the cigarette out of your mouth, puffs on it, and no, it's fine, you keep it.
Right. And you know how many times people used to talk to me, would you ever date somebody who had HIV? Or, and you have all these stories about,
Would you?
Or do you have friends? At the time, you didn't know. The interesting thing is, from the age of, from when I started going out till I was 31, I actually never dated somebody more than one day.
Isn't that
I like staying free.
Good for you.
And I was also very busy, and I was involved in a lot of activities.
Good for you.
So it was till I was 31 that I actually settled down with somebody for a while, and then broke up. I had somebody in between for a little while, and then free for a little while, and now I'm back in a long-term relationship.
Which do you prefer, freedom or a relationship?
I have to tell you, my
Well,
relationship
he's
right
watching
now.
this,
No, my
remember.
relationship right now is very, very solid, and I'm enjoying. We have a great life together, and he's a special human being.
That's good. That's nice. So,
French, Moroccan, Israeli, who became an American.
are you legally married?
No, not yet.
Are you planning to be?
We're discussing it. I fought. It's interesting. I helped fight the fight for marriage, but I also always told everybody it's like marriage to me is like being part of an institution. If you want to be in an institution, then you get married.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I always believe everybody has the right. Everyone should have the right.
I do not wish to get
Doesn't mean
married,
if
but
I want
I
to.
totally
Right.
feel that it's your right to get married if
Right.
you want to.
Right. We share almost everything together as if you were a married couple, but I don't know if I want to be part of that process. And I've seen my mother have hard marriages, and I'm like, I don't know if this is maybe that's something that's always set in back of my mind. But more importantly, I feel like I don't need to be part of what everyone thinks is the norm.
I agree.
And maybe that's the other thing. I've always gone to speak up about you don't have to be the norm, because what is the norm? And I would say in all the activities I've been involved with, I fight the fight for everybody, because I don't believe we should be discriminating against anybody. And I've always told people, you want to be respected the way you want to respect others. You respect others properly, you're going to get respected back.
That's not
And
always
that's
true.
important.
I mean, the police will shoot people for living while black when they commit no crime. They shoot them in their cars for no reason. And even though the people stop, say, yes, officer, yes, my hands are up, sir. I mean, that's wrong,
There's a lot of things that need to be looked at and fixed. Full disclosure, I represent the Detectives Union here in New York. I have to say that I know many of them, amazing individuals. I think there's an issue of more training. I think there's an issue of having more folks. There was a point where the cutbacks in the police force was so low that then the mayor at the time insisted on stop, frisk, no such thing as question under his terminology.
Which was against the Constitution.
Which was against the Constitution. And I believe that if you talk to most police officers at the time. They felt very uncomfortable doing what they had to do, but that was the orders. It's like a semi-military, you have to follow the
It
direction
was
of your
very much a
superiors.
fascistic government.
And thank God, things are starting to change. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. We have a lot more to do and a lot more to move forward on. But I have to say that the current city council here in New York has done a lot to try to advance that cause of trying to make the police department a better police department, and hopefully we're going to get there. But around the country, there's a lot more to be done, and it's unfortunate that what we're seeing. And I think New York, we talk a lot more about it. Where in other places they try to hide it or cover it up, and that's inappropriate. And I think we have to expose it, and you have to.
And the horrors of poor Sandra Bland, who was murdered, and presumably her mugshot, saying presumably all night tonight, presumably her mugshot was taken after she was murdered, which is so macabre and hideous. It just defies reason. Now, if people want to be a lobbyist, how can they become a lobbyist?
So, I mean, there's no, you don't go to school to become a lobbyist. You go to school either to take on politics, government relations, marketing, it could be even business administration. At the end of the day, what a good professional lobbyist is somebody who has the ability to represent folks. You don't have to be a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. My partners are attorneys, but you do not have to become an attorney to be a lobbyist. A lobbyist is somebody who becomes a messenger, somebody who can actively present the facts or be able, as if they were working for their client, as if they were part of that organization, and be able to speak on behalf of them and be able to help their cause. And that's someone that becomes successful. Lobbying firms hire public relations people, hire crisis management people, hire marketing people, hire people who specialize in MWB certifications, which is Minority Women Business Enterprises. They hire folks who actually know how to write a law. They actually hire people who understand the budget process. You're a jack of all trades, and when you're representing organizations, you have to learn how to balance out being able to represent the interests of your clients and at the same time also present good public policy, and that's what makes a successful lobbyist.
Do you enjoy what you do?
I love every day. I wouldn't continue doing it if I didn't. I was in government for 21 years. I enjoyed it. It was very rewarding. I worked in the city council. I worked on the Board of Estimate of the City of New York, and I ran an agency for 15 years. Loved every minute of it. When I went into private practice in 2002, so it's 14 years, I don't look back. I actually enjoy every, for me, I look at every chapter as a learning experience. I love, as I started at the beginning of this program I told you about, I learned things that I never thought I would ever learn about. And I represent the sanitation union. I've learned more things about trade, about waste, collection, the difficulty on the job, waste management, bed bugs, eliminating mattresses. Believe it or not, you have to learn about everything, and you have to be able to present it. We successfully this year got women bathrooms for the 157 women, female sanitation workers. The first one came in 1988, 89. Believe it or not, of the 59 or 60 garages, there were about 15 that didn't have women's bathrooms or lockers. And more importantly, the ones that did, they were so disgraceful, so small, so tiny. And I have to say the Commissioner of Sanitation, working with the union, working with the City Council, working with this administration, have now funded 100% to get women's bathrooms and facilities and garages. Now, you would think, there's a lobbyist, why would a lobbyist be involved in that? And we had to put this all together. And we had a hearing, and we discussed it, and we got the money, and it's millions of dollars.
This administration being the de Blasio administration.
Yes.
The Stop and Frisk administration being the Bloomberg administration.
Yes.
Yes, we're all being very careful with that one, aren't we?
Well, in my firm, we're bipartisan. We have Republicans on and we have Democrats. I have just a good relationship with both sides of the aisle, which is important because you have to be able to do compromises, coalition building, and...
But as you also said, if you don't feel comfortable with the client, you will not take the client on.
Will not take the client, no.
And that's a good piece of advice for every lobbyist. Yes. And everyone,
Right. You have to believe in it.
Yeah. And if people want to hire your firm, how would they get hold of you?
Our website is pitterbishop.com. People can, we're listed under all kinds of government relations listings, and but it's pitterbishop.com.
Okay. And if you had something to say to young people out there, what would you say about finding their niche, their career, their way through life?
I tell young people all the time, because I mentor not only just the LGBTQ young folks, many of involved in politics, so a lot of county committee people come to me with their kids and ask me if I'll meet with them or their nieces or nephews, and I do it very often. I actually want to meet them in person. I don't like just talking on the telephone, because I actually want to see how they act, what makes them tick, because you always could tell by when you're having conversations about like where they really want to go, not just what mom and dad want you to do or what you think you want to do. You know, when you talk it out a little bit, you start to learn also that they might have more than one interest. And I always tell young folks that you have lots of opportunity when you're going through from high school to college to do internships or to actually get a job and start learning the work environment, learn what it is to be out there. You build up skills. People skills is very, very important. That's how it's going to make you the most successful in anything that you do. And more importantly, I tell young people is that ultimately, once you get your career going, or if you're not totally happy in your career, make a switch early. Till about 35, you have that flexibility to make those changes. I'm not saying you can't do it later on, but later on, hopefully, it's because you want to do something else in your life that you've been successful in what you're doing, and then you're ready for a different chapter. But hopefully, that you'll have that flexibility to make the change that you want. But when you do become successful, you do get some stability in the career that you're in. You should definitely join network. Very, very important. Whether it's a professional group, a social group, a cultural group, a charity group. Everyone needs to give back, and it's going to come back to you 10 times over.
Absolutely. My guest has been Gian del Giorno, who is a professional lobbyist and a social justice LGBT activist. I'm Diana Montford. This has been the Diana Montford Show. Don't we have interesting guests? I love this man. He's so smart. Anyway, and do what he said. He knows what he's talking about. Look at how successful he is, right? So anyway, I'm Diana Montford. This has been the Diana Montford Show. Hey, even if no one else loves you, I love you. I'm easy, right? No, I love you. I love you. I love you. And you have to be good to yourself, and you have to love yourself. Anyway, never mind if I love you. Love yourself. I'm Diana Montford. This has been the Diana Montford Show. Love you a lot. See you next time. Take good care of yourself. See you next time. Bye.